Hello everyone, my name is Eric Manson. I'm a subject matter expert at I Get It, Tata Technologies, and I will be discussing today NX visualization and how to basically render out a 3D model within NX. This webinar will give a user a quick look through NX Visualization Essentials course that we have at our website. This is intended to provide the user with the basics of digital image rendering in order to create a photorealistic image. The things we'll be talking about today are setting the proper perspective, creating lighting and shadows within the scene, creating a 3D environment and system scene, application of color and materials to a 3D model, and basically putting it all together using the Raytrace Studio feature to create a high-resolution 2D image. So let's go ahead and begin with setting proper perspective. So the first thing you want to do when you're creating a rendering using, say, this model here is that when you want to make sure it's in the proper perspective. And to do that, let's go ahead and if we go into the upper bar and we select View, we notice we have Display. Now here we have Perspective. Now in order to change the perspective of our particular model, we want to make sure that this is selected on. If I select this right now, notice that the image changed a little bit. Now we're taken out of perspective and it's now basically geometry that you see. Now to put it in perspective, we select on it. It will stay like a blue box around the word perspective. And if we want to change that, let's go to More. And in the drop down, we'll find Perspective Options. And we get the Perspective Options dialog. Now here we can change it by moving this tab all the way up, as we can see here, up to 6,842, and we can move it all the way back, and when I do, notice it's getting distorted perspectively. And basically you want to keep your object around 1300. You can also go in and select within the value box and you can place it in, say, a specific number. Once you're happy with what you have, you hit Apply and hit OK, and you can exit out. So let's go back to Home. And if I come over here, one other quick little tip here is that we can actually access perspective right here in this little icon area. If I select on that, I can take it off and put it on, and then right next to it, if I hover over it, you'll see Perspective Options. And I get the Perspective Options dialog again. So that's just a quick little tip for you to access perspective. If it's not here, you can always go to View, remember, within Display. Let's go back to Home. Now, one thing we notice here is this model is extremely dark. It's not colored this way. It's not set to have a dark gray situation here. We have to turn the lights on, and to do that, we can go to Menu here, and if we go to View, go down to Visualization, and we come down to Advanced Lights. Go ahead and select that, and we'll get the Advanced Lights dialog. Now notice right away what we have is we have this arrow and it's pointing downward. And if we kind of look over here, we see that is on, and these are we have an on and off box. That means these lights here are on, these lights here are off, and they light our scene or basically light up our object or model. So if I select on this one, notice this light is now apparent over here in the left corner. I select this one here, the upper right corner, and we also have one down here. And if we want, we can orientate the lights, and if we kind of show, we're showing the selected light that we select. So down here in Orient Light box, we're going to say all lights. Now we can see all the lights that are on within our scene. Now if we want to add some, we can add some lights. Say if we want to add, let's go ahead and add, see this left bottom one. I'm going to select it here in the off and then select this arrow here, and it basically pushes it up to here. And notice our item here, or our object, has gotten a little bit lighter because we added a light. Now if we come back down to orient light, and I can say no lights, we can't see anything. I want to see all the lights. And then as I select on each light, I can change the color of the light by selecting on the color box, and this will bring up the colors dialog, and I can custom create a light, or I can use a standard light. Here we're just going to use white for the standard. But here now we have intensity. So I selected the scene right bottom. Notice that it is orange here and the rest are kind of like grayed out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase that to say 0.5. Notice how our object or our 3D model is getting lighter, especially in color. It's not as dark. So I'm going to select another one. If we look up here, we're now looking at, if we hover over this scene right top, and that's at 0.31. So I'm going to increase that a little bit to say to 0.45. Look, if we're getting lighter. And I'm going to select this one, which is at 0.08. Let's increase that even more. And if we look at our top light, and that's at 0.1, I can increase that just a little bit more. So you can actually play with this, and we can increase the lighting of our 3D model as well as our scene by going to advanced lights. Now in the same aspect, we can also look at our actions, which is basically we can create new ones. You're not going to use this a lot. I'll say it will reset all default options. For shadows, we'll definitely do that. So here we want to set our shadows, so we would select on that to turn our shadows on. Our detail, we have a selection of either a coarse, a standard, fine, extra fine, or ray traced. It's your decision how you want to do things. If we leave it at ray traced, we have our edges. Now these are the edges of the shadows. There will be either soft, extra soft, or ultra soft, or you can have hard edges for your shadows. I would probably say, want to maybe say extra soft. And then finally we have visual effects, which is basically use image-based lighting. We'll leave that on. And when you're satisfied with everything, let's go ahead, hit apply and OK to close out. So let's move on, and let's go to, at the top, let's go ahead and select render. And here we're going to select studio task. Now notice right away we get a background change to our viewing window, and you'll see on the side here in the resource bar, system studio materials will appear, and you'll see the system scenes. We'll go through this in a moment. And so basically what we did was we entered the studio task area, and we're within advanced studio right here at the top. Now what we just talked about with shadows and creating the shadows, up here under studio setup, you'll see that there is a selection of shadow buttons or features, you could say, and you can toggle through them. There's only 4 right here. Now if you don't see these, there's a downward arrow button under group options. You want to select that, go to the more gallery at the bottom, and make sure that there is a check next to all of these here. This will allow you to access and turn on and off your certain types of shadows, as you can see. So I'm going to zoom in, kind of show you the differences of the shadows here. Ambient shadows, when there's this light blue box over the feature, that means it's on. If I select on it, notice it takes it out. And the ambient shadows are very small, highly detailed type shadows. As you can see, if I select on them, it kind of puts them in all these little crevices and little fillet areas that gives it a very realistic effect when you go to render it under ray tracing. There's also show shadows, which are the larger shadows that you can see that here that they fall from the lighting. And then the last one, of course, is the show stage. If I have to zoom out. And if we see it, it's very light, but it's right here. And if I go ahead and select on that, notice it's gone. And I'll select and put that back in. So those where basically your shadows are. They're also underneath scene preferences. If I select this large button up here, you'll notice you'll get a scene preference dialog, and here we can work with the shadows. You can work with environment, lights, and background as well. Now I go into much more detail within the course itself. Remember that all this information is in much more detail and in video over at I Get It at the NX Visualizations Essentials course that you can access there, and goes through much of all this detail that you see here. Now, since we're kind of in this right now, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and select background. And within background here, we can do a few things real quickly. Selecting 2D background. Under type, I have a choice of an image file, plane, graduated. And with image file means that I can go ahead and select an image file to put in the background, or I can choose an image from the NX palette. And I'll show that in a moment, but let's go ahead and look at plane. And notice I can change the color of the background. If I select on the color box, I can then change the color that I want to change it to. I can also make it graduated. It'll give me a second color that I can go in and I can change that one as well. And I can also do a custom color as well. So let's go ahead and go back to image file. And if you have one on file that you want to use, go ahead and select that. That will be from your own personal computer's hard drive, and you can select it from wherever you have it placed or stored within your hard drive. You can also choose one from NX that's offered from the Environment Image Pro palette. And as you can see here, we have different types. We have indoor and we have outdoor. Let me shrink that. As you can see here, let's go ahead and select, let's select this one right here, hit apply, and then select OK. And that still takes us back to our scene preferences. And in here, if you like the image in the background and you want to start manipulating the image and everything, let's go ahead and hit OK. And notice that I can now move my model. I can also basically place it anywhere I want within this area and kind of make it look like it's sitting right here on this desk. And basically then go to the Raytrace Studio button, and this will then begin creating a high resolution 3D image. As you can see here, it'll give you a quick little preview. And it's going to go through a number of iterations of how detailed you'd like to make this. You can pause it at any time right here. I can pause it and then I can continue, start, resume, and it will go through and it will make everything much more realistic, a photorealistic image as it goes through. You also have other buttons in here that you can adjust the quality to. You can make it photoreal. You can make it quality interactive, and you can make it fast interactive. You can do a lot of different things at this point. Again, in the course online over at I Get It, I go through all of these buttons here that explain what you can do and all the different features. And basically when you're done with this, if you hit pause, you can then of course select the studio preferences, And in here you can then set the render mode again, and you can go through all the different details. You can then also have it set to a certain file format. It's either a TIFF, a PNG, or a JPEG. You can set the size to user defined, where you can adjust the size of the picture and the camera aspect ratio, everything like that. And you can even change the brightness within the image as well. When you're finished, you can always then save the animation of it, or if you go to start static image, this will render it in a static image that you see right here, and when it's finished you can then save it out again as a TIFF, PNG, or a JPEG. When you're done, then go ahead and hit close, and we're back to here. Now the other thing I go into, we can also look over here to system scenes, and if I select here, you can see there's more indoor scenes you can pick from, outdoor scenes. Now these here are dome images, which is basically an environment that you're going to place that in. If I go ahead and I select on that one, you can notice here now that our dome or environment is being placed, or I should say our model is being placed within an environment, as you can see here. And if it looks like it's too big to be in your environment, one of the things you can do is you can zoom in, but in this instance what we want to do is if we go back up to scene preferences, and if we come into background, notice we're in environment and we have a choice of a dome type, finite or infinite. And if we select infinite, notice now that our object is much more fitted properly within our environment. If I zoom out, you can see more of our environment, and if I want to, I can zoom in and I can see just our object as well. Now I can come back to, say, Studio folder here within System Scenes, and I can also select different types of scenes here as well to place our model. Again, another dome type scene. You can also pick just a regular studio scene as well. And we can start to see our shadows. So again, all of this is within the course of NX Visualization Essentials. I go into much more detail, and there are projects that take you through each of the features and help you learn how to use them. Now there's one final thing I want to talk about, and that would be the materials. And that is of course located here on the resource bar, and we have a System Studio Materials. We also have it up here as well, but you can access it here. We also have, there's another item we can say is we have Materials in Part. If I select that, you'll see another tab added here, and what this does is it tells me what materials, maps, or decal stickers are in the part itself. If I select on it, you'll see there is nothing within these until I add it. And to add it, basically we can come into here, and if we notice, let's go into plastics. Each folder here will have colors and materials that you can add to your object. So let's say if I want to, let's make this, I guess, an acrylic red. Now there's two ways I can do it. I can select my surface or my model part here, and then I can go ahead and right click on the object or the color or the material I want to add to it and hit apply. And notice that it now added that material to it. If I can also say click with my left mouse button, click, hold, and drag it, and hover over the part or area that I want to place that material, and then just let go. Sometimes it will bring up, if you have multiple bodies in here, it will give you the choice of where you want to exactly place it, and then just select on that particular body and it'll place it there, as it did here. And you can start to see the differences. So let's go ahead and do that again. I'm going to select this body here. I'm going to right click on the red acrylic material, hit apply, and there's the application. And again, I'll left mouse button click, hold, drag over and drop. It's going to ask me what body, the mirror body, select on it, and there we have it. And that's basically, you can go through all the different types of materials. There's fabrics, there's even gases, there's gemstones, there's metals, of course, that you can place on here if you want to do any type of material. You can see here, it's quite a vast library of materials. So if we want to go ahead and select the steel, we want to put it on the end for this chuck of the drill. We can see that. And of course, when we're all done, we can go ahead, select Raytrace Studio. And as you can see here, we have a very photorealistic image of our drill. And of course, we can select that we want to make it a photorealistic quality. And we're probably going to want to make this a static image. And it will go through all the iterations in processing it. And at any point when you feel that it is satisfactory, as it says up here in the dialog, you can go ahead and select pause. And once you do that, you can then save the image. And a save dialog will come up. And here you can use a transparent background if you want. You can save it as a PNG, a JPEG, and then also gives you where you can also browse where you can save this image and place it on your hard drive and give it a name, and then go ahead and hit OK, and then you'll be all set. So that in a nutshell is NX Visualization Essentials. You can go to the actual course over at I Get It, and you can take the course there. It has a lot of projects, videos, and explanation in much more detail on how to use these features to create a high quality photorealistic image of your particular model. Again, thank you for attending, and again, head on over to myigetit.com for more information and more classes and courses within NX. Thank you.